Hello, welcome all to the Rabell Realty Group podcast today on this beautiful April 12th Monday at 2. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on Facebook or on YouTube. Well, thinking Instagram also is up there, but we're on all three essentially, but live we're on those two. So welcome. I'm Kristen and Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Johnson.
And we have a show for you today. We're super excited for our guest speaker. And we'll get to him a little later. Oh, Collin Austin. We're already going to talk about him. There's Collin. He's a great podcaster himself, and we'll talk about Gainesville and some tips from him on podcasting and lots of other fun topics. We'll see what we'll get into. So, but let's
start Monday like we start every Monday with our Monday Market Moment.
All right. Tell us the numbers, girl.
All right. I'm excited to get through this quickly so we can get everyone talking to Collin. So your Monday market moment for Alachua County, April 21st, or April 2021. Sorry. I was skipping ahead to my birthday. Sorry,
21st,
guys.
12, you know.
The best day of the year. All right. Active listings that have come on the market as of April 1st through today. You have 101 listings. Pending sales from the beginning of the month until now is 159 pending sales, and closed you have 106. So it is
not so bad numbers right now.
Not bad numbers.
We're keeping up with those closed and not too far behind the pending.
Still on the slower side in terms of things coming on and closing, but we'll see that pick up as school lets out, and we definitely are in desperate need of homes to list and sell.
Just low inventory.
Low inventory.
Yep. Less than 2 months. We've got to get out of here.
Yep. And then, like we talked about last week, at the end of April, we'll actually do a full quarter so that we can see what's happened the first quarter of the year.
That'll be exciting. I love the quarter ones.
Me too. Mm-hmm. And then St. Augustine, they're looking strong. They've got active listings, 63 since April 1st coming on. Pending sales, 21 and 9. They're just going into their season. So I know that as things come on the market, they're immediately going under contract. And for the most part, and we'll see all those start closing.
I know. That's wild.
Yeah, it would be a harder market. It's much more tourist and seasonal.
Yes.
And then the Tampa Bay area is looking strong. They've had 186 listings come on, 806 pending sales, and 476 closed sales. So obviously a larger metropolitan area, but they're going to have a huge May, June, it looks
so one of our agents was posting on Facebook about how they have less than 2 weeks worth of inventory there.
That's crazy.
So they're really, Tampa is all over the news as being one of the top, cities to move to, and for all sorts of reasons, and then also top city to invest in. So she was saying that you cannot, if you have a buyer that's a VA or FHA, you're not going to get anything. So it's really
and they're building as fast as they can.
And large down payment conventional. So they're really seeing this market tighten.
That's unfortunate. But that's your Monday market moment. All right.
Just a moment. So let's go.
So we have a special guest with us. Yeah. It's Collin Austin, and he is a podcaster, and he entrepreneur.
I would say a little bit of everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was on his podcast last year, right before the pandemic, and here you are.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know. Yeah. So I know that your forte is talking, so let's talk.
Like any entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's like before
sales marketing person, right?
Right. Yeah. Right before the show, before you got here, Rebecca, we were talking, and I'm like, the only thing I really know how to do is to talk on the microphone. Like all this other brilliant lights and production and stuff. Leave that to my man Elio back there. He is doing a phenomenal job with this stuff. But I can show up and talk a little bit.
Who doesn't want to do that?
So absolutely. It's
you kind of are, you're not from here, but you're like the Gainesville guy. Everybody knows you from your podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor to make Gainesville home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My dad, I'm going to give you the long version short. My dad was in the Air Force, and I bounced around the first 18 years of my life, was living, every 2 to 3 years we were moving somewhere, right? It's just military lifestyle. And I wanted to be a Gator, applied to the University of Florida, got in. And so from 2000 to 2004, those 4 years for college were the longest I'd ever lived in one spot. And so after that, I'm like, you know what? Gainesville's home. I love it here. This is great. and obviously stumbled into this scooter business and started this scooter business in my last semester, and that's New Scooters for Less for those of you that might not know. And I've been here ever since, and just been building business, building community. When people ask me what I do, that's what I think I do. I think I build community.
Yep. You wrote that to us. That's what you're excited about, building community, investing in the community, making it greater.
Yeah, it's just something,
connecting with the community, right?
Absolutely. I think just when you can bring people together for a common cause, a common, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but for, just bringing people together for a purpose, I guess that's probably the best word. There's just something really special about that. And that's what I enjoy doing. I like to see other people succeed. I like to see the community succeed. And so any way I can contribute to that, I'm honored to do so.
Yeah, so with you bouncing around and you finally finding this home, you really thought this is your community. So you really want to be a part of it and build it and grow with it. Yeah.
It only took 4 years of college to realize, like, dude.
So what'd you go to college for? Was it for business?
It was, yeah. I went to UF. I was in the business school. I minored in mass communications. Okay. I was taking a lot of advertising type classes and that kind of thing. I actually thought my life was going to go into like the music industry.
Oh, wow.
Because I played, a lot of people don't know this. Fun facts.
There we go. Fun facts with Collin.
I played trumpet, and I bounced around stage to stage in Gainesville. In a little ska band. That's
so Gainesville.
Yeah,
right?
Back in the day. And I did that for a while. And I worked at Rock 104, which is now Gator 103.7. Yeah. So I was doing promotions for them. I was doing I would host their Battle of the Bands. So being on stage and announcing.
So you got really used to being online.
And
talking.
Right.
I was kind of in that groove already, right? And I worked at Skylab Recording Studios, which is here in Gainesville. And, just doing a lot of stuff like that in college while I was going to school. And then, I graduated and none of that. No music whatsoever. I thought I was going to be in radio or something, but it just never played out. But it's funny because you circle back to that time. Now, now I've been in Gainesville for 21 years, and it's I see all of the things that I was, involved part of in college, and kind of coming back full swing with, being on the microphone all the time, doing my own show.
Well, the 90s are back, I hear.
Yeah. Wait, that was the 2000s.
2000s.
Early 2000s. Oh my gosh.
God, I know. It goes by so fast. Yeah. So fast.
Got sweaty thinking about that. I'm like, wait a minute. That was 20 years ago, 21 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Well, but that's why, we ended up just over that time, just these natural progressions in an entrepreneurial career, right? I started off with the scooter business because I saw a need at the University of Florida with trying to help this college community with their transportation issues, no parking. It was just these light bulb moments going off. And of course, we've had that business for 17 years now. And then in 2018, we started the WHOAGNV podcast, which you came on episode 100. And, and it's always I've never been one of these guys. It's here's an idea. Let me go do this. It was always recognizing a problem and coming up with a solution.
Which is an entrepreneur right there. Yeah. That's the definition right there.
Yeah. So, and the podcast, fit that mold. It was seeing this need to tackle these problems, which are let's keep more of our top 6 talent right here in Gainesville. Let's recruit experienced talent and investor dollars to Gainesville, and let's build as much connection and collaborations within the community as possible. The biggest fulfillment for me is when somebody messages me on LinkedIn and says, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that business existed until I saw them on your show, and now I'm doing a collaboration with them. Now I'm doing business with them," and I get so much fulfillment from that, and seeing just amazing things come out of relationships that are built through a show. Very similar to what you guys are doing here.
Yeah. So you basically find these people or these businesses that that you want to collaborate with or you want to connect with, and you just bring them on, and then it just opens up their doors for so many more connections.
Yeah.
And you sort of do it out of a need, but it almost sounds like an excitement for you to get these names out there and get these people out there.
There's definitely a lot of intentionality in terms of who comes on the show. We always tell people there's 3 main ways to get on the show. One is to catch my attention. I'm on social media all the time, and I'm and something will grab me, and I'm oh man, that's super interesting. And so I'll reach out to that person and ask them to come on. The other is a guest that's already been on our show, like they're connected to somebody like, oh, Collin, you know who'd be a great guest? So-and-so, like have them come on the show.
Referral.
Yep, referral is huge. And then we actually have a nomination form on our website, WHOAGNV.com.
Okay.
And if you know somebody that you think would be a great guest for our show, then you can nominate them. And that's been the best way for us to get guests. But in terms of like who comes on, like I just try to mix it up. You know, it leans more entrepreneurial because I'm an entrepreneur and that's what I love. But I mean, we've had police officers, we've had children, we've had authors. I mean, we've had such a variety of talented, amazing individuals on the show that it's
keeps it interesting.
It keeps it interesting.
Keeps it localized too.
I try to like mix it up so we don't have too many, you know, for example, like I don't want it to be just a startup podcast.
Sure.
You know, so like I'll try not to have startups, you know, 5 startups in a row. I'll try to like really mix it up and bring in the experienced CEO who has had a business for 30 years and then bring in the startup and just try to really mix it up.
Yeah, we've seen some of your shows. So what are some favorites that you have or you don't like to pick out the favorites?
Oh, man. Favorites are hard. It's really, really hard. There's been so many good ones.
You've had how many now? Because I was on your 100th. But then did you pull back after COVID because people weren't coming in? So
no. We actually pivoted and did like a Zoom podcast for a while. And so we did that. But we've been very consistent with the episodes. In fact, what's interesting is like we had a lot of episodes because we recorded so far in advance. And that's kind of what you and I were talking about before we got on here. So, because we were due to celebrate episode 100, which I was like, oh, let's get a bunch of real estate agents in the room. This will be fun. And it was.
Middle of the night.
And it was. Yeah, it was crazy.
You probably could have you had enough recording tape for like 3. Right,
yeah.
3 podcasts.
For sure.
I remember we were on for 2 hours and you were like, we got to stop now.
For sure. But the biggest lesson I learned through that was not to get too far ahead on pre-recorded content.
And we talked about that
which
earlier.
is a great benefit to something like this, right? Because it's live and it's out there in the moment. Like we recorded that episode at the beginning of March of 2020. And we didn't.
Before the Big Bang,
We didn't talk about COVID at all.
No.
It was not even
It was
on.
still in Europe, basically. It wasn't really over here. So it wasn't real estate based.
Right.
But then once you put it out in April,
it was like, that was the only thing people were talking about. And I was actually kind of concerned about the perception of the, you know, we had like 10 people in this room,
you sort of
a small room,
right.
you know, like and live like this, like I was worried.
But we
about
were talking, you and I both
perception.
think we had COVID prior to that. We just didn't know what it was.
Yeah. I definitely believe that I had it in February of 2020.
And I think a lot of people had something they didn't know, and now we know what the name is.
Exactly. So, but you know, I remember going to the doctor. The doctor's like, well, did you have any overseas travel?
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I'm like, no. I'm like, no.
Of course it's not going to be here.
I've been
it's just
at work.
Overseas.
But I still think that's what it was, even though I didn't get tested obviously
they didn't have it back
not
then.
at that time, but I didn't do like the antibodies thing. So I don't really know if I had it or not.
True. Yeah.
So,
this is water, by the way.
Yes.
Best in the business.
He's lying.
Oh,
no, I'm
thanks,
just joking. So tell us a little bit. So you're big, highly involved in the Chamber of Commerce, which is kind of where I met you before, but I know I kind of was like, oh, we have a similar mindset. I'm from the Tampa Bay area, moved to Gainesville in 2004, and I love it here. There are problems like any place that you live, but I like when I see the city and the county trying to do things to make it a better place to live, to keep the startups, to make it a better quality of life or more of an atmosphere where you can hang out. And so I'm like thinking of Depot Park and a lot of the things that they've done to beautify Gainesville and make it nicer in that regards, or more friendly. Because I don't want to say family friendly because
it's not just families.
You'll see, you'll see people, doing yoga or painting or doing photography classes, that are all not college age, but young adult out in Depot Park on the weekends and stuff. So I think they're trying to make it more desirable to stay here. We got to work on the housing and the utility costs, obviously, but
and taxes.
Taxes, yeah. So
I mean, I'm from here to like go
Yeah.
off on that. From here, and it was like, God, I gotta get out of Gainesville. It's so sorry, Gainesville, but you were so podunk, growing up here. And so what you've brought to it, or what you're trying to showcase and what you're talking about, it's such a breath of fresh air, because I did come back and watched Gainesville grow. And I know I have a lot of friends who were very nervous about it. We kind of talked about that. Don't California, it was more, don't Miami my Gainesville. That's how it always been. I don't want that mess of too many people here. Everybody gets grumpy. There's so much, there's not enough to do, and so everybody's unhappy. But really, how Gainesville's growing, we want it to grow healthy. We want it to grow beautiful. We want it to be outdoor, but also indoor spaces. You want to be able to brag about Gainesville. You're coming here because you have, arts and theater and outdoor and businesses. So people can thrive.
Well, that's why people will be here, is if the businesses are here, they have places to work.
Really the most important part of it is so they have a place to, start up or go and work, so they can raise their family here and it not be overpriced. Although in some ways it is getting overpriced, at least in the real estate market world. But, making Gainesville a place where people can stay and want to stay because of all these things. What's your thoughts on this?
I think I love all those different aspects, and I love Depot Park. I love all these things. I got to think it's so incredibly difficult as a leader in the community to really figure out what to prioritize. Sure. You hear all the things, oh man, there's some roads that I drive down and I'm like, oh my gosh, we really need to fix this road. But it's so... that's the difficult piece, is what parts do you prioritize? I think for the most part, we do a really solid job. I am super hopeful when I look back to 2004, right? And I think about, starting my scooter dealership and how alone I felt, and how not having the resources, and now, I coach a lot of young, entrepreneurs, and am encouraging them to stay right here. We've been successful to bringing businesses to Gainesville through our show, which has been super rewarding. And just things like that, it gets me excited, because we do have a lot of the resources that weren't able to be offered before. We do have the accelerators, and we do have the incubators, and we do have even help at the city, just people who are willing to really take time to invest into a young entrepreneur and help them get off on the right foot. And I think you see that even with members of the business community. Right. It's very rare that I have somebody reach out to me and say, hey, can I sit down with you for a few minutes? I'd love to just pick your brain on something, and them get a no, right?
Right.
They get a no if it's in the middle of August and we're selling 300 scooters. It's how about next month? But I see that from entrepreneurs all across Gainesville, where you're just willing to invest into each other. And that's what makes Gainesville so great, is the people. And that's why we want to use our show to really highlight them.
So I feel like you were really a part of that startup of bringing that mindset here. Because I remember you talking about when you started, there wasn't really any formal, group to help with that. So you and Kristen Hadid and a couple of other, starting entrepreneurs, especially from UF, kind of got together and you formed your own group. It was kind of like a BNI chamber, group, and you formed it with yourself, and then each of you helped find another mentor in a way. I don't know if it was Kristen, but someone was being mentored by someone else. It's oh, meet this person. Do you feel like that came with your age group and with yeah, or was that already there?
Maybe, honestly, Stacy at the chamber kind of initiated a lot of that. There was a time where I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce because I was walking in and out of my, business, and I had the little decal in the window, and I'm like, what am I paying for? It just came across my mind. I was like, what am I paying for? And I think the challenge when you're the Chamber of Commerce, for example, is that people get value from different things, and that's what makes it so hard. Some people get the value from simply networking and going to chamber after hours. And so it's easy for us that's just a membership so you get access to chamber after hours. But there's so much more benefit to what the chamber is doing. And so I think that's why it's important. And that was one of the things. I called the chamber and I said, this was a long time ago. I've been a member for a long time, you guys. But I remember calling them and saying, I'm really not sure what I'm paying for like, could you help me? And that's when Stacy was like, you know what, let me come out to your business. I want to sit down with you. And then that was one of the things that came up. It was like, I would like to make you a facilitator of this CEO roundtable. We're going to pull some entrepreneurs together, just the business owners, and just get you guys in a room and talk business. And it was one of the most rewarding things that came from, and still has come from, my membership in the chamber. And it was just because it was a safe place to talk about the vital details of our business, handling employee situations, the times you're crying on the bathroom floor, all the hard stuff that you really can't just talk about was being
almost
talked about.
Almost like a therapy session.
It was.
As well as ways to navigate through that and find answers that maybe you didn't have on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so once I got so much value out of that, one of my missions was like, the chamber later reached out and said, what's been the most valuable piece for you? Right. And that was the thing that I pointed to. And I said, I will help you get more of these groups off the ground. And hopefully we'll continue to do so. It kind of got put on pause last year with COVID and everything. But
how was the chamber doing with that? Because you were in that group.
We still talk.
Yeah.
Our little group still talks, or a good chunk
of
us.
There's like 4 or 5 of you.
Yeah, there's basically 4 of us now. We had a couple of people they fizzled out or went away, and so Georgia Wooten with crime prevention still runs ours, and we meet from time to time. So I found it extremely helpful, and I think it was nice to be like, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of this person, and I don't know, I've never fired anybody. This is a couple of years ago, and they're like, well, this is what you do, and you just sit them down and you just do it.
Yeah.
So wear pastels.
And just kidding. That's kind of the joke. For whatever reason, whenever I'm getting rid of somebody, I always show up in pink or purple, something very soft,
sweet color.
Yes. So now when I walk,
actually, I would just still show up.
Because I normally wear black and gray,
and
so now if I walk in the office in anything other than black or gray, they're
especially on a Friday.
Oh, I know. They're like, what's wrong? Who's getting fired?
Oh, no.
I'm like, nobody's getting fired.
Making it that predictable. Huh?
I know. I guess I was just like, sorry.
That's more of a joke. But
yes, now it is.
Well, yeah, it's again, kind of going back to the mastermind thing. It's building a community, and it's a small community, and those people can rely on each other. It's creating that safety to talk about the things that are very difficult to talk about, and
helping each
other
out.
I thought that was great. So
I
hope the chamber does bring that back. If they're listening, please bring it back.
Yeah.
We like it.
We're actually going to take a really quick break. We've missed our break period. So let's take a break and we'll get back.
I bet I talk too much.
No, it was us.
This usually happens. It's all right.
Longleaf Village is a community conveniently located off Archer Road in southwest Gainesville. Known as Longleaf by its residents, the development is comprised of 550 single-family homes anchored by a stately clubhouse and resort-style swimming pool. Longleaf is a short commute to Shands, the University of Florida, Celebration Point, and Butler Plaza, with easy access to Kanapaha Botanical Gardens, museums, and the farmers market at the neighboring Hale Village Center. Life at Longleaf revolves around the clubhouse, which can be rented out for parties. The stately clubhouse opens up to a beach entry swimming pool flanked by tennis courts. A fitness center and playground support an active, family-friendly lifestyle. Please visit buysawrebell.com to search for your new home in Longleaf Village.
Hello, welcome back to our show. We've got Collin Austin here from New Scooters for Less, and he's an entrepreneur also from WHOA podcast. So we're here talking about Gainesville and its growth and its extreme potential. So we've got a couple questions here from some of our viewers. Susan is asking, what's the most successful startup business from Gainesville? Is that really a question that's answerable? I mean, it's sort of different for, everyone. I would say you're really successful. You went from, taking on a small company that was already kind of there. Well, you said you needed to come up with a solution. So you brought, how many scooters do you start with?
5.
Right. And now you're like a top scooter company.
We've been
nationally.
rocked a little bit from this last year, but we've built
who
one of the
hasn't
top
been
dealers.
hit though? I mean, I guess realtors, but
it's coming. Don't worry.
Yeah, it is coming. Right. We had already been hit in 08, so.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, to top startup.
There's so many right now that are doing so many.
That's what's,
well.
That's what's so great. Businesses that kind of come to mind really, really fast, I would say, like Fracture's one that they're not a startup anymore, but like Fracture's one that I've known since their startup phase, and they have just grown like crazy and are doing really awesome things. So that's one that kind of comes to mind, but there's several. Believe me, there's several.
So there you go, from Collin right there. All right. Are you doing anything with the middle and high schools to get them ready? Oh, you know?
That's an interesting idea.
I mean, the most that I do when it comes to middle and high schoolers is really just learning where they spend their time, because I'm a marketer by heart. So I spend some time on TikTok and some other places where I know they spend time, because I'm like, you know, it's funny. I went to the University of Florida and I spoke. And I speak often in different classes, and I remember going in there a couple semesters ago, and I said, "Who in here is on TikTok?" And like everybody laughed, right? Everybody laughed, and no hands went up. And then the next semester, I went back, and I'm like, "Who in here is on TikTok?" Everybody. And like more than half the room raised their hand, and so I know that. And the first time they all laughed, I was like, "Look, like you can laugh, but I know that your brother, your sister." Will be on that platform and will be, coming to the University of Florida here in the next couple of years. So that's why it's important for me as a marketer to really understand that. And so that's probably the extent of it, at least. But like, I would love to do more, especially when it comes to coaching or mentoring. I have gone to different high schools and spoke, like I've been to Buchholz before and spoke in their entrepreneurship program and things like that. And I think that's good.
I would assume you're not speaking there a lot because you're really wanting to keep talent here. So you've got to go to University of Florida so that they don't run away afterwards and they stay here, especially if they have really great ideas and businesses. So, that's why I would assume you're not there with the younger groups, because, a lot of them are leaving. Yes, a lot of people stay for Santa Fe and for UF, but it's hard to figure out who those are. So maybe it's finding out once they become seniors, even juniors, who's sticking around, and then grabbing a hold of those guys and girls. So, yeah.
That's a good point.
So marketing, what do you suggest? A lot of people who watch are realtors, or people in that type of industry where they need to self-market. What are some top things you can do to self-market yourself?
Good question. I think the hard part when it comes to real estate, right, is that like you really have to build a great personal brand, because there's just so many of you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree. There are way too many realtors.
Right.
So like, you have to think like, what is the thing? And I ask this, and it really goes to any business, but you have to constantly ask yourself, and what's the thing that's going to separate me from the rest? Like, what's different about me? Why would somebody choose me over somebody else? And and you have to keep revisiting that over and over and over, and keep getting creative and coming up with new ways. I mean, obviously, like, content is a huge piece of this puzzle right now, because it's a video first world. And you see that you guys are doing a great job with this right here. And like, other realtors need to do very similar things, even if it's making videos and putting videos out all the time. But what is going to bring your audience the most amount of value? And then you just work backwards from that.
Sure.
And find those ways to separate yourself. Now, in terms of the platforms that are super hot, that you're going to get the most, because everybody likes free reach. Everybody wants the organic reach. It is going to be your TikTok. It is going to be, and I would say LinkedIn. Like, if I was a real estate agent, I would be posting on LinkedIn daily.
There you go.
There you go.
You hear that? Rabell Realtors that are watching, y'all better be getting on your LinkedIn right now.
I want to know why.
It's the amount of organic. Look, the amount of organic reach that is there for your audience is huge, right? Because I understand the mindset. It's like, I don't want to invest a lot of time into TikTok, even though, like, I understand that that's super organic and you're going to get a lot of views, but it might not necessarily be the views that I want.
Right.
Like, I don't need a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids seeing this stuff. They can't buy houses.
Sure.
I understand that. Right. You can do what other creators are doing, like Joe Hancock, who like uses it as a editing tool, like creates first on TikTok and then exports to LinkedIn. I thought that was brilliant the first time I saw him. So those type of things are very eye-catching, and you can do that. But even if you're just posting valuable pieces of content, or just getting engaged in conversations on LinkedIn, it's huge. especially if it's in your space. I like to call it like the 6-7 degree. What's the old thing? The 70 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it's the Kevin Bacon.
I don't know if it's 6 degrees, 7 degrees.
It's smaller here
degrees.
in Gainesville. There's only like 3 degrees of separation. As an outsider who's come to Gainesville, that's my observation.
Yes. Well, if Kristen and I are connected on LinkedIn, but Ellie and I weren't, right, which we are, but like, but if we weren't, and you were engaging on my or I was engaging on your content, and you guys were connected, like he would see my comment, you get linked in through the second and third degrees, and that allows for more exposure.
I mean, that's Facebook also, but you're moving away from Facebook and heading back towards LinkedIn.
Well, Facebook organic is dead.
Oh, it's dead.
Like if you have
I'm just saying, if you have someone posting and you're not friends, they'll still see your comments. You'll still be able to connect that way, but the organic reach is dead.
Do you guys remember when like business pages on Facebook were like the thing? Yes. And it was like the surge, like to get the most likes as possible, because you knew that if those people would see your content when you posted it. And now it doesn't even matter.
Nope, you got to pay for it.
Yep, have to pay for it.
What do you think about this new-ish Clubhouse?
Clubhouse is hot. I wish I could devote more time to it. My struggle with Clubhouse is that most of the content and stuff that I'm consuming regularly, it's silent, right? Like I'm quiet. I'm usually doing 8 different other things at the time. So to like literally carve out the time to be able to go into the platform and listen and to engage is a little bit challenging for me personally. However, tons of organic reach, plenty of opportunity to get into the conversations and to really build audience, to build impact. You could absolutely create. And this is the way I would do it. If I was a realtor, the way I would do Clubhouse would be scheduling a regular time each week to get in and discuss Gainesville real estate. Sure. And just say, if you're a realtor and you're on Clubhouse, or you're interested in finding a house or you're interested in learning more about the Gainesville real estate market, join us Wednesdays at 8 p.m. every single week. This is where we get in and discuss, because then you bring that consistency. Then somebody who's in Michigan or California who's thinking about moving to Florida can get in there and can learn more about the market, can understand, and that's the way you would do it. Yeah. Is that but it's like anything, it's consistency,
right?
Consistency, but just the organic exposure and reach is the biggest opportunity with Clubhouse, but a very cool platform.
Yeah. What do you think of people who get paralyzed by perfection? Like they have to have the perfect post, and so they never post anything because if it's not right, then it's not. I'm always good enough. We'll get it next time. Just get it up there. But we've seen that before where people are like, I'm going to post on Facebook, and then they never post because they're like, well, I couldn't get the picture just right. Or what is your thought on that? Do people really care? Or does it depend?
I always so I think it ultimately depends. Like in the grand scheme of things, no, it doesn't matter. I think if you have a very specific brand and you're trying to stay loyal to this brand, like, for example, kind of going back to Fracture, like they have a very specific brand. So I would expect them to take their time on those posts. A good way to kind of get over what you're saying, especially from a personal branding standpoint, is start with stories. Instagram stories are, or I mean, really everything has stories, right? Twitter stories, LinkedIn stories. Start with stories. It's a little bit more raw. It's a little bit more off the cuff. It's a little bit, yo, check it out. We're here doing a podcast, but like very just raw, right? And build that consistency up. And then from there, you can kind of get, this is a great opportunity for me to capture, like we captured a picture beforehand, right? Right. It's a great opportunity to get the picture, which then you can then edit and clean up and post if that's what you want to do. Me, I'm very my brand is very raw. It is very off the cuff. So
it works for you.
It works
for
me.
Stories are great for you.
But you're absolutely right. Too many people get so caught up in the weeds of the perfect picture and the perfect post that they just never end up posting, and that's not good. And you need to.
I think that's great advice. Like if you're too afraid of that because it's going to stick there forever, the story can go away. And so you can just be really your authentic self, and whoever's going to see it, sure, there might be judgment there, but it's going to be 2 seconds of judgment, and they're going to forget about it because they're going on to the next stories. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's when you're paralyzed by perfection, you're so worried about it sitting there and all the people saying, oh, this isn't perfect, this isn't right. But if it's a story, it moves on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Great advice for those.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, just the volume of content is what will ultimately help, when it comes to building your brand.
Right.
One thing I like about your page, or I find interesting is that you share bits about yourself. So you'll be, you and your wife are hiding behind the fence and, I don't know, I saw some post about that and I was like, oh, that's so cute. But the other thing that you do is you ask a lot of questions and polls. Yeah. You're constantly like this or that, or tell me what you think about this and I'll keep it secret, So I like that. Or I'm working on a project, help me out. So
I'm glad that you brought that up. Let me dive into that really quick.
Yeah,
I know you got some more questions coming up, but the kind of going back to the community, right? Mm-hmm. By doing Instagram polls and then saying, hey, I'm going to keep your answer private, or if you send me more in depth as to why you're doing this thing, and I'm going to keep it to myself, and it creates that safe place, right? It creates community. And I think that's what's so important is especially when it comes, and you're talking, there's some political stuff that was in these polls, right?
Sure.
Like I am out not to judge, but to get information. Insight. I want to learn why you might think differently than I do. And that just creates a place, of safety and a place for really valuable dialogue. And so it kind of just goes back into my theme of being a community builder. That's what I think I am.
Well, I think it's great.
I like it.
Perfect. I know we had a question.
Another question there. I think it was about building your own personal brand, right?
How do you start? Carrie Meyer, I love you, Carrie. Carrie's amazing.
Carrie, yeah.
How do you start building your own personal brand? By just starting.
Yeah, I was going to say just start.
I know it sounds so basic, but you have to have the platforms. I would say this: if I was going to start a fresh platform, I would explore the social media platforms, right? And I would decide which one is, or which few are the ones that I actually enjoy using. Because one of the things that I constantly see is somebody is like, oh, I know I need an Instagram account because everybody has an Instagram account, and I need to be posting, and so they'll download Instagram and they'll make this commitment to posting, and they'll do so for maybe a month, and then what happens? It fades off. They fall out of it, right? So you got to get to a point where it's manageable, because that's the other thing. It's like, Collin, I hear this all the time. Collin, there's so many different platforms. How do you keep up with all of them? I don't post on Twitter nearly as much as I post on Instagram.
What about Snapchat? Are you still on there?
I don't post on Snapchat as much as I used to. I used to be heavy Snapchat.
Yeah, you were.
But then Instagram came out with Instagram stories, and I actually liked it better, and it was able to do, I don't know, I just felt like it was more engaging. But
so you're saying you can drop something if it's not working anymore, if something that comes out better that you like even more.
I think it's, yes.
Yeah.
I think you can. I think it's more important to really understand what fits you, right? Yeah. And that's okay. If you can do all of them and you love all of them, great.
Do it.
I would say that most of us as humans who have lives and jobs can't just be
do
on
it all if you can't.
Yeah, I can't do all of it. So find the 2 or 3 that you really, really love, or where your audience is that you can learn to love, and dedicate more time to that. But then when the Clubhouse comes out, explore it.
Right.
Is there opportunity there for you? Don't just be like, oh, no, I can't handle another thing, I'm not going to do it. No, spend some time, see if it is a good fit for you and for your business, and look at the possible opportunities there, and then go.
All right, you're relaxing. What is your favorite social media to just flip through or look at, not for work purposes?
Instagram.
Yep,
oh, really?
Instagram.
I love Instagram
still the
too.
stories.
Yeah.
Yep. I like stories.
I can get lost in the Instagram stories.
But you get lost in TikTok.
TikTok and Instagram stories. Those are my 2 places.
It's very easy to get lost in TikTok.
Oh, you'll spend a whole day there, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be here, here, and here now.
Brilliantly designed.
It really is.
Perfect for short attention span.
Yes.
Yep. Brilliantly designed. Definitely created to keep you there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's ads that pop up, and they look just like the commercials. They, or the little videos. I'm always like, is this ad? Okay.
Yeah.
And my kids love it, and they're 11. And she watches it with me, but so every evening before bed, she wants to look at crazy cat videos, right. And so we'll go look at cats, or she likes baking and different things like that. So we'll go watch a couple of these together, and I have to be like, all right, turn it off, go to bed.
Because I don't want to get right back on.
Yeah, no, she can't. She can't. Doesn't have access to that. Oh, me, I might. When I'm putting the baby down, it's my favorite thing to do. I'm like, let's watch some TikTok. So now even he knows.
Question for you guys then.
Okay.
What's your least favorite platform now? Facebook.
I said it. You heard me, Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook, it's awful. And the ratings just
everybody's getting off of that. I'm like, I love that you're saying LinkedIn, because for a long time that was the one for me that I hated. But like you said, go back and explore it. It is true. As realtors, that's probably a great place. And Facebook is just getting ridiculous.
I don't like it because I don't ever see the people that I want to see. I see whoever I most recently decided to friend or like let accept their friendship or whatever. And I'm like, that's great. But I really am more interested in like what my sister's doing. And I have all these lists, and it's very different.
And you can change that.
Yes.
But
it's also lost and I don't want to work on it. I'm like, I just want to look really quick.
It's lost its love and feeling.
It's lost its love and feeling because it's become very political. Like everything's a political statement or something to that effect. And I don't enjoy that. That's why I like Instagram, is it's quick and I could pass your story if you're getting, like, if I just don't like what you're doing, and then I can mute you and you can go away. And there's no hurt feelings of me unfollowing you or any of that. Like, you just mute somebody and
Plus
they don't
there's
know.
also, I find less words there. And it's just like
I just
some words, but really like video and images, and it just feels fresh and real and authentic, whereas Facebook doesn't feel that way anymore.
Okay. Well, so here's something to try really quick on LinkedIn. Try, and I've had success with this, not for me personally, or for some work with some clients, because I do have a media company called Repaint the Wall, but it's very kind of still behind the scenes right now because of this pandemic. I've been super focused on scooter stuff the last year. But try taking some more of the personal aspects of your life, like maybe it is with your pictures with your dog or your kids, that kind of thing, and making posts like that on LinkedIn. Because I think that there's this mentality that everything on LinkedIn has to be so business,
right?
That people kind of go,
100%.
But as soon as you shift it and you like show people the more personal side, especially as a realtor, because we're talking about personal brand. So show them your favorite cocktail that you're having on Friday night, right? And talk about, whatever, but make it more personal on the LinkedIn side versus businessy on the LinkedIn side. And I think you'll see more engagement and more growth there as well.
Interesting.
I like Very good advice.
Do you use Google, by the way?
Google, just
Google My Business?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
For specifically for the scooter dealership.
Yeah. I figured for that mostly.
Yeah.
I think, we have success with that also,
We actually do have a lot of success with Google. I like Google a lot.
Yeah, my only last piece of advice, because you made me think of it with Google, Google has the My Business and has the messages. And so you can use messages like texting. Like, we're obviously we're in a mobile first world, right? And so you're going to see more and more people want to text versus pick up the phone and call you. And so this is why it's so great to be at least focused on your primary platforms. If you like LinkedIn, I would just say, like, if you're on LinkedIn, then make sure you're checking LinkedIn messages. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you are checking your Facebook messages. And if you're on Instagram, your direct messages, like that stuff's critically important to really building those relationships, and especially for prospective clients that could be reaching out to you.
100%.
Great advice, great information.
I could talk marketing and media and all that all day long.
Yes.
All right. Well, the show is going to go all day long.
We don't have anything else to do. No.
Clear the schedule. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
We
appreciate you. We'll have to have you back to talk more about branding.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure.
And
my pleasure.
We're going to throw it out there to our sponsors. The first one is K&R Property Management, where we invest in your investment. If you have a property that you are tired of managing, or you're moving out of the area, but you're not ready to sell your home in this hot market, they would be delighted to help you find a great tenant.
And our next one is JMP Florida Handyman Services, where they do remodels, repairs, maintenance on your current home, the home you're about to list with us, or the home you're about to manage with K&R Property Management. You can call them at 352-519-8476.
And if you're thinking about getting in real estate but you're not sure where to start, you can email us at join@buysellrebell.com. We would be happy to tell you how to get your start.
And there's YouTube. Please like and share. We are on there on the podcast, but we have a lot of
other great content. So please subscribe at Rabell Realty Group.
And did you know we have a blog? It's where we post tips, tricks, things about living in Gainesville we love, and notes from the podcast. You can find it at buysellrebell.com/blog.
And we want to thank Fiesta Media, the Fiesta, for the full podcast production. And if you'd like to start your own podcast, come join us on ours and then contact them at 352-327-5089. You know, I always like to say that.
I know.
We thank you, Elio. We thank you, Collin, for joining us today, the other great podcaster. It's been excellent conversation. We could always talk more all the time. Maybe we'll have you back on, or we'll be back on yours. However, you know, we can always just keep connecting. We loved it, though. Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys. My pleasure.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy Monday.
Thank you. Have a great one.